Hey everybody, welcome back to Retro Modding News, my weekly video where I talk about what's new and upcoming in the world of retro console modding. First up this week, we have a Bluetooth controller adapter for the CDI from Stone Age Gamer. This adapter was made using an Arduino Nano, and when you buy one of these adapters, everything comes pre-flashed and pre-assembled, and it even includes a nice looking 3D printed case. I don't know that much about the CDI, but Stone Age Gamer here says that the controllers can be pretty expensive secondhand, so I'll take their word for it, and if you're interested, you can pick up one of these adapters from the Stone Age Gamer website right now. Next, we have this awesome Aftermarket N64 shell here on Kickstarter. They're calling it the new Funtastic series. Obviously, it's a play on the Funtastic consoles that were for the original N64, a bunch of different colors. I actually have the jungle green one back there in my case somewhere. But as soon as I saw this thumbnail here that had this atomic purple N64 shell, I knew I had to back this project. So let's just take a look at the information here on the Kickstarter. It looks like they're trying to be as close to the OEM quality as possible. That's pretty nice. However, it looks like there won't be a Nintendo logo on the top of the shell, so that's a little bit disappointing. It already includes a region-free cartridge support, so that's nice that you don't have to buy an extra mod to do the region-free cartridge mod. And if you look at the pictures towards the bottom, you'll notice that there already is this HDMI cutout slot if you want to do an HDMI mod for your N64. So that's pretty awesome if you're looking to do something like the N64 digital mod. You wouldn't need to buy one of those no-cut port mods from LaserBear or anything because the N64 slot is already built into this case. All right, so let's take a quick look at all the colors that will be available. Here are some limited edition colors. This is the Spice color from the GameCube. There's this 1985 color scheme, which is maybe like an original Game Boy Color gray. Next is the new Funtastic series, which is those alternate Funtastic colors. Here's the Atomic Purple. That's the one that I'm really interested in. There's Berry, which is like a hot pink. Crystal, which is probably going to be clear. Extreme Green, which is a pretty awesome alternate color too. I really like that one. Midnight, which is just the normal looking blue color. And then Onyx and Snow, which is just opaque black and opaque white. And then here at the bottom there are some two-tone Funtastic colors. There's Blackberry, which has black on the bottom and that hot pink in the top. Black Cherry, which is a red on the top and black on the bottom. Was there a red up here? I don't see. That's interesting how they have a two-tone red but not a solid red. And then Black Ice, then Black Uranium, which is that extreme green on the top and black on the bottom. Monster, which, what is this supposed to be? Pokemon, I guess? Pokemon colors? Anyways, pretty interesting Kickstarter. I think this is a semi-affordable price at $80, including that HDMI cutout, so you don't have to buy your own additional no-cut mod for doing an HDMI mod. At the time of this recording, they're only about a third of the way through the funding, so if you're interested in this project and you want to see me actually have one so that this project doesn't get canceled, go ahead and place your order now for the new Funtastic shells for the N64. Next, I promised Jeff Chen that I would talk about his two new projects, so here we are, Jeff. The first one here is a PS2 VGA adapter, and this one is actually kind of insane. I'll show the assembly of this in a second, but you'll see how kind of tight this adapter is actually. So first of all, what is it? Jeff Chen has developed this VGA dongle series, he's calling them. You can actually take a look at all the different ones. There's a one for the Dreamcast here, and there's sort of adapters for the RetroTink 5X. These adapters are actually for RGB signals, but it's along a VGA cable. So it's not VGA going through a VGA cable, but it's RGB going through a VGA cable. That's just because VGA cables are extremely common and the quality is pretty high for even relatively cheap ones. I believe this will also work for the PS1 as well. So let's go quickly into the assembly guide and you'll see it's a couple of different PCBs. There are some passive components here on the bottom, but you'll notice pretty quickly that it kind of gets out of hand with this right angle header here. And then you solder together a secondary board that has a bunch of plugs on it. So here's an RCA jack and a 3.5mm headphone jack, as well as the PlayStation AV plug. So let me get to the good stuff here. So when you finally solder everything up together, it's sort of this 90-degree angle of two PCBs butted up against each other, which makes it really compact, but it also kind of makes it pretty complicated in my opinion. So anyways, if you were already interested in Jeff Chen's sort of VGA adapter system, now there is going to be one for the PS2. And if you want to create one of these for yourself, all the information and installation guide that you might need are here on this GitHub. Okay, the second mod from Jeff Chen is sort of a weird one, but I can understand the rationale behind this one. So this is a Sega Saturn 8-pin mini DIN mod. Long story short, I believe Jeff probably had a broken Sega Saturn, or the DIN port of the Sega Saturn, which is the video port, was probably broken on one, and he was trying to repair it, and he couldn't find the exact, 10-pin mini DIN? Is that what the Sega Saturn uses? But he could find a bunch of 8-pin mini DIN ports, which are pretty inexpensive. So this mod basically deletes the original Sega Saturn AV port and replaces it with this 8-pin mini DIN port, which is the same pinout that the NES RGB uses. Again, there's a big installation process. You'll have to remove the original port and then solder up this little board here and 3D print this bracket. It looks relatively easy to do if you're already familiar with desoldering and soldering on new ports on consoles. However, my main gripe with it is I don't necessarily like when you completely change the stock AV output from a system to something that's completely sort of out of the system entirely. So basically, let's say somebody else gets the Sega Saturn after you've done this mod to it, they're probably not going to have any idea what kind of cable that they're going to need to get output from the Sega Saturn. I understand why he did it, but to me, I'm not sure if I really like this mod. I hope you don't take any offense to that, Jeff. You know, that's just my opinion. You might have better reasons for why you created this mod or why somebody else might want this mod. Anyways, if you want to make one for yourself, all the instructions and details about how to make it are in this second GitHub here. Okay, next we have something that's pretty crazy from TZMWX. I believe this is the same modder that created that Sega Saturn handheld mod. Essentially what this is an internal 4 megabyte memory and 4 megabyte expanded RAM internal mod for the Sega Saturn. Okay, in this video here, I'm gonna not play it, but I'm gonna try to fast forward through it. You can kind of see on the Sega Saturn motherboard in the back here, there is a new PCB that sits on top of the original Sega Saturn motherboard. Typically, you might have these Sega Saturn RAM cartridges or the save memory cartridges that go in the back of the Sega Saturn. I've heard a couple people say that they have problems with the cartridge slot not detecting these cartridges very well. TZMWX has developed these boards. You can kind of see them here up close, where you kind of depopulate those RAM expander boards and you put it onto this board. If we fast forward through this video here, this is sort of like an installation video, but it gets kind of crazy. So he takes some component legs and put them through these vias here on the Sega Saturn motherboard. I'm not exactly sure where these are located, but it looks like it's probably close to the cartridge slot. Then you fold over those component legs onto this internal expansion board and you solder them in place there. It looks like there's a bunch of places that you have to do that sort of bending of those component legs and soldering it there. And then here's sort of a top-down view of the whole mod complete. You see it kind of seats underneath the cartridge slot here. So basically the advantage of this is if you have one of those flaky RAM carts and you still want to be able to use it with your Saturn, you can get one of these boards and solder all the components and basically have it all internal in your Sega Saturn. What's also kind of interesting is it looks like you can put other boards into it as well. So let's say you had a different save game memory cart or something and you wanted to use that inside of your Sega Saturn. I'm pretty sure that you could still use that while this mod is installed internally. Yeah, so that's basically the mod. Now we had an interesting conversation in my Discord about, you know, whether or not this is kind of harmful for Sega Saturn modding. The chances of messing up a Sega Saturn by doing this mod are not zero. There is some risk definitely for doing this mod. And it definitely involves some desoldering skills and maybe even some hot air rework station skills for getting some of these surface mounted chips off the board intact and put them on the new board. I don't exactly know if there's going to be a GitHub repository or some Gerber files where you can build one of these yourself. I guess I'm just curious what you all think. If you're like an intermediate to advanced modder and you are at least bit interested in this mod, let me know your thoughts and feelings in the comments below. Last up this week, we had 3 announcements from Analogue, which they're really all kind of one announcement. Let's just go through this Twitter thread quickly and go through all the updates. Okay, first they're announcing something that they're calling openFPGA, which sounds like it is like a firmware update to the Analogue Pocket, but also a platform for people to develop FPGA cores that run on their systems. So if we scroll down a little bit, it says openFPGA is the first purpose-built FPGA-driven hardware ecosystem designed for third-party development of video game hardware. Okay, so then it says for the first time we're opening up our hardware to third-party developers. Does that mean that they're giving people sort of open source access to the Analogue platform, or is this a new platform that people can create their own hardware but just kind of in the Analogue ecosystem? Okay, so it looks like Analogue Pockets can be used as a development platform for this openFPGA platform. It looks like they're creating specifically built Analogue developer kits that use that hardware platform, so that's sort of interesting. And then they go into talking about this Space War FPGA core, this PDP-1 system, just sort of the history of this game, I guess. Okay, so this developer, Spaceman 3, recreated the PDP-1 to be used on this openFPGA platform. But finally, we get to the real meat of this whole announcement, which is the updates to the Analogue Pocket OS version 1.1 beta. So first we have the ability to run openFPGA cores on the Analogue Pocket, and then we have library beta and memories beta, which are two features I talked about way back when the Analogue Pocket was first announced. So these features are actually kind of awesome. So library sounds like if you put a cartridge in your Analogue Pocket, you'll see a whole bunch of details about maybe even like the revision of the board that you have, as well as details like what system it's on, the developers of that specific game, which is cool, publisher, and region. So I do like this libraries update. It does seem like this is an interesting way to add value to people beyond the normal ability to just play cartridges. You know, you kind of do get a picture label. Is that cartridge label picture in the bottom? Some kind of a picture and some more details about the game that you're playing. So I do like that. And then there's this memories beta, which is sort of like a history of game saves on your Analogue Pocket. So as you're playing different games using different cartridges, this memories will be like a timeline of what games you played and when you recently had saves in those games. And then it looks like there's also an update to the analog dock. There's a bunch of different Bluetooth and 2.4 gigahertz controllers that it will have compatibility with, which is cool. And then it just talks about timeline of all these things. I don't know, September to October for everything here. I know people have pretty mixed feelings about analog and just FPGAs in general. It definitely seems like kind of a console war of what platforms you're gonna use, what platforms you wanna invest in. Keep in mind, I just have a Mister. I don't have an Analogue Pocket, at least not yet, and I'm not even sure if I'm gonna get one. Those features that they're adding do seem to be adding some value, at least the libraries one, which tells you more details about different games that you're going to be playing, a little bit of added value for your analog system. And I wonder if anybody besides Analogue is going to be creating an openFPGA hardware sort of console. As part of this openFPGA, it sounds like they release plans, hardware plans for this entire openFPGA platform, and it's not locked down to Analogue specific hardware. So I'm curious of who's going to come up with an openFPGA console and what that will look like. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. That's it for this week. If you want to suggest a news story to me, follow me on Twitter or join the Discord. If you want to watch more retro modding news videos, you can check out this playlist here. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.